welcome everyone this morning on behalf of Your Golf Travel and Premier Golf. Obviously, we put this together at fairly short notice. Paul McGinley, obviously, who all of you will know, is a friend of obviously both companies, and very kind of Paul to come and have breakfast with us this morning. And once we've all had a bite to eat, we'll open things up and you can ask him whatever you like. Enjoy your breakfast, and thanks for coming this morning. And Paul, thank you for coming as well.
Thank you. Enjoy your breakfast. Thanks. So I've been following Tiger a lot this year, and I don't think we are. I don't, to answer your question, I don't think we are. I'll be surprised if we are. Just looking underlying with Tiger, the thing that's following the stats as I do, because I always believe it's a bit like you studying the markets. There's always trends under here that on top of the iceberg, then this is what happens. But if you look underneath the iceberg, there's something down here that's making the size of the iceberg up here. And in terms of his performance, which is the iceberg up here, you look to see why this is happening. And obviously the physical challenges he has is a huge part of that. And the second thing is, it's not so much that his long game is terrible. It's far from it. It's a short game. He finished last in putting at the Masters in the 4 days he played. He finished last in scrambling in the 3 rounds that he played at the PGA, which the other 2 tournaments he played in. And yesterday he was in the bottom 10% of putting. So his short game is miles off the pace, and that's why we're seeing crazy scores from Tiger that we've never seen before. He scores in the mid to high 70s. So that's the problem. The other question I'd say about him, which I've been saying on TV a lot, is as a competitor, and Tiger was the best, we know that. But you still need to cut your teeth in other tournaments in order to get ready for the majors. You can't just turn up and expect to hit the ground running as a competitor, even if you're Tiger Woods, unless you're playing tournaments. Yeah. It's like a soccer player, training, and then expecting to go and play a huge, big Champions League game or a league final without having played Premiership matches. You build in match fitness, as they call it. It's the same with golf. You need match fitness, there's a rhythm to playing professional golf. You build up your confidence from decent performances. And when you look at in 2019 when he won the Masters, and you look at the success that he had there, he had a number of really strong performances before that Masters, culminating then in the Masters. So it didn't come out of left field. It wasn't because he didn't play for 3 months and then he turned up and he won the Masters, which seems to be a lot of people's perception. It wasn't. He'd won in Eastlake at the end of the previous year in the FedEx. Remember when all the people on the fairway were coming up, and that was only 4 months before he won, 5 months before he won the Masters. Then he came out and had some decent performances early season, culminating then in a major win. So I feel we've been robbed a bit, to be honest, unfortunately, because of his second injury, not the fusion in his back, which he seemed to be recovering from and went on to win the Masters after. But this latest injury is a very, very serious one, and he nearly lost his leg. Nolan McGay works with us, he's one of his best friends. Works with us in NBC, and I met him the day after the accident, and he was telling me, Paul, it's at least 50-50 at best that he's going to lose his leg. That's how serious it was. And so the fact that he came back, the foot was turned around and it was broken, the ankles, and anybody who's, I don't know if there's any doctors here, surgeons will tell you, it's a very, very complicated part of the body, is the ankle and the wrist. They're the 2 injuries. So I'm hoping it's not. But I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think anybody would be surprised that he's so far off the pace, but I'm not expecting it. Answer your question. Sorry, it's a long-winded answer there.
I understood that when you were captain, you took quite a different approach to previous captains, and you reckoned your players performed best within their own cocoon, with a caddy, a coach, and so on. But you then wanted to give them a framework.
That's right.
And you decided that you wouldn't bust out, you wouldn't intervene. And I was there, and when you hold the winning putt at the Belfry, and Sam Torrance was welcoming you up to the green. Big smile. Hand in your shoulder.
You've done a lot of research.
hand on your shoulder, right?
Taking a big interest.
Intervening.
Yeah.
And I think you felt that inspired you. It took a burden away. And then you didn't feel that was appropriate for you to do.
Well,
so just talk to me.
No, I kind of did, to be honest. I mean, Sam was the biggest influence as a captain that I played in 3 Ryder Cups, and Sam was the biggest influence for me. I know he was my first captain, but he was also, I played under Sevi, I played under Olazaval, I played under Monty, I played under Woozy, and I played under Bernard Langer. So I had a real good education under the greats of European golf, one way or the other. And what I tried to do in my captaincy was, when I became captain, and I'd already done 2 captaincies before in the Sevi trophies, and we'd won, both as underdogs. So I felt that I had somewhat of an instinct to do it. And my instinct was based on simplicity and clarity, not complicated. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's not giving them 10 million ideas and all of these stuff. I believe golfers play best with a quiet mind, and structure and a quiet mind. So that's what I tried to do. So what I did was, more than anything, I sat down and I looked at all my experience, and I thought, this is my experience here. All of these years of playing and vice captaining and captaining in the Sevi trophies. And I thought, okay, this is where we are in Glen Eagles in 2 years' time. I'm going to take everything that has worked, that's been proven and has worked, and write it down in this column. Everything that had worked. Number 1 was fun, create an atmosphere. Number 2 was engagement of the heart. Number 3 was preparing for the exam. Every golf course has got a different exam, preparing for the exam. So I took all of these now, and there was about 8 or 9 principles that I think. I call that the template. And what I tried to do was, rather than changing any of these, was to just flower them, to make them better. But to only use those principles. Not to take something out of left field that hasn't been used before and try it. I only wanted to do what was tried, tested and proven. And that's what I did, and I flowered it. And one of them, I made Sam Torrance a vice captain for the reason of man management.
It's Scottish.
Yeah, well, there's that element too as well, yeah. I think the Scottish guy too, and Stevie Gallagher. But it was because one of those principles I took out was man management. And I thought he was the best at that, and I could still learn a lot from him in that. And you're absolutely right, what I tried to do was, again, one of the simple principles of Ryder Cup is, these guys are individuals, week in, week out, week in, week out, week in, week out. They're trained from the age of 13 to be an individual. You don't have teammates to bail you out. You have a team around you, but it's an individual sport. So when you're asked them to go into an environment every 2 years to be a team, one of the things that I'd seen it work in the past was not to over-team it. Not to all of a sudden be your best friend and having had a different relationship with somebody in the room. It was, that's fine, you go and do your thing, let him do his thing, let him have his own team around him, and let me do my thing. And so I tried to give everybody the security of their own team around them. Right down to the caddies, for example. So I had a meeting with the caddies every night, and the caddies, my view with the caddies was, look, you will not see me riding up in the middle of the 9th fairway and telling Rory McIlroy, oh Rory, be careful, it's a 5-iron, it's not a 6-iron. Yeah, exactly.
To call him recovery.
Yeah, exactly. And that, you know how that ended. It didn't go down very well. So my view was, the caddies and the players are doing it on a week-to-week basis. They're making decisions. They know each other better than anybody. Who am I to come in and infiltrate that relationship and maybe take away from performance? All I wanted, number 1 more than anything, was performance. So that's kind of what I did. So I kind of kept them in the cocoon. Whatever their team was around them, whether it be a physio, whether it be a coach, whether it be a mental person, whatever it is that they would normally have on a week-to-week basis, great, no problem. Take them in, and they're around you, and they have access to you in the team room that week, and all of that stuff. And,
let Sam smile and give them cuddles.
Sam, well, I call Sam the happiest guy in the room with this big, huge grin. And one of the things that's really important, and all of you, I'm sure, own businesses here are involved in businesses, culture and vibe and fun is so important. That was my number 1 principle, was fun. And Sam was a big part of that. Coming into the room with a big smiley face, probably a glass of wine in his hand, having the crack, a bit of banter, a bit of slagging between the players, a bit of a piss take, all that stuff. That's all good. It's all positive energy, and I wanted to encourage that. Because I feel when golfers are happy, like all of us, when we're happy and things are going well, that's when you perform your best. Sometimes we can get too intense. too intense and the pressure gets too big because we're so intense. We want to win so badly and we get in our own way. So I try to make sure that that wasn't the case. There's got to be focus, but there's also got to be an underlying sense of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
But what research? Good question.
Well, we were at Glen Eagles.
You're at Glen Eagles.
And you handed the US third place. So you did well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I'm going to Glen Eagles next week to play in the Senior Open. Actually, I'm looking forward to going back. I haven't spent much time there since that, but we're on a different course now.
Is that the King's course?
We're on the Keys course, yeah. Well, but it was a great week.
It was
turned
a
out
wonderful
great.
tournament.
Yeah, it turned out great.
So you're not advising the European Tour team anymore, right?
No, I'm on the board. So I'm on the board. What's happened, because we lost by a record margin last year, the view was we've gone off the tracks. And you know, again, talk about the iceberg, okay? So the performance in Whistling Straits, we lost. We lost by a record margin. But if you look underneath the iceberg, which I did, we were terrible. And the reason we lost, the public perception and the perception in the media was we lost because America had the best team they ever had. They had 10 of the top 15 in the world on their team. It's the best American team ever put out. We had no chance against that team. They were high quality and young players and vibrant and all of those things. And while I get that, that wasn't the reason we lost by a record margin. Underneath the iceberg, but here's the statistics. Whistling Straits was a golf course in 2016. Jason Day won the PGA Championship there. He shot 19 or 20 under par. It was the lowest score ever to win a major championship. He'll be beaten this week, by the way. So this is not a difficult golf course for professional golfers. Secondly, the weather was pretty benign. Thirdly, Steve Stricker had cut away any rough that's there. Any rough, there was no rough. So if you missed a bunker, you were in rough like this. So there's no rough really, because they wanted birdies. Fourthly, they softened the greens because they wanted birdies. They're better on the front-footed golf than we are. So the golf course was set up for low scoring. Now I know the standard in professional golf. All of you folk know the standard as well. But here's what the iceberg told us. In the ultimate shot, we averaged even par per match. In the 4-ball better ball, we averaged 5 under. That's not going to win a club championship back in Sunnydale, never mind the Ryder Cup match. On a golf course, particularly that's set up for birdies. And in the singles, we averaged 2 under per match. So the reason we lost by a record margin, as good as America was, is not because they played golf that we couldn't match. It was that our performance, goes back to your point, we lost performance. Our performance was miles off the pace. So we're looking at that closely now behind the scenes. We have a new captain in place, Henrik Stenson, and Thomas Bjorn is in as a vice captain, who was a captain before, and we are looking at maybe creating some kind of a sounding board for the captain to use ex-captains and help them with decision making and to try to put ourselves back on the track again. Because number one, more than anything, a Ryder Cup is about creating performance. That's what it's about. That's about more than anything else. It's about performance. It's how you play on the pitch. What have you shot against par? How have you won your matches? As much as all the other stuff and culture and all of those things are important, they all contribute, but you're looking for performance. So I have somewhat more of an official consulting role going forward. But that's all it'll be a consulting role.
So who wins the Open and what's the score going to be? In your...
I honestly think the scoring we're going to have, now that we've had the rain, unfortunately Senegal is going to be ripped apart. I mean, they can hide the pins all they want. These guys are so good. And they're hitting it so far down these front fairways. I haven't looked at the scoring yet, but the rain is the big game changer. Because professionals are brilliant at controlling the ball from A to B. They can land it on a sixpence, control distance, particularly when there's no variable like wind. But when it hits the ground like it has done in the practice rounds and then goes to A, B, C, D and runs 20, 30 yards even with a wedge, out of control, they've lost control. But when they're able to control the ball on the first bounce, create a bit of backspin, you cannot hide the pins from these guys. So I'm looking at a score better than, what are we yesterday, 8? Yeah, it'll get, if it's not 20, it'll be very close to it.
And who wins it?
Who wins it? Well, I backed Cameron Smith before it started. I'm hoping for Rory.
I think we all.
I think you know, I'm a believer in destiny, and I'm a believer in the spirituality of St Andrews, and I just think he will be a great winner. You know, Nicholas has won here, Rory's won here, or Nicholas has won here, Tiger's won here. You know, Sevi has won here.
It's a good first round.
And he's not in that bracket yet.
No.
Another major win, particularly at St Andrews, would probably put him there. I know it's still one behind Nick Fallow. We talked about this earlier in the week in the show. And you know, he's still behind Nick Fallow in terms of major wins. But I think because he dominated in America and he's won so many tournaments around the world, more than Nick ever did, I think it will put him ahead of Nick.
It's Sir Nick.
Sir Nick.
Well, he's had a great first round, which is encouraging.
It's just Sir Nick.
Yeah, but
Sounds good.
he had that at the PGA though.
Yeah.
I mean, we were singing our praises at Golf Channel after the first day. We did the post show with Brandon Chambly and Rich Lerner, and he just dismantled the golf course the first day, drove it unbelievable, was leading the tournament, and we were like, you know, this is great, bottom of bomb, he dismantled him, and then he went to the second inning and came off the ball at 74, something he shot, and kind of went away, and then he came back a bit and finished top 10, but I was just saying earlier, if I would just want, I want to see him like a horse. Just put the blinkers on. Put on the blinkers and just giddy up. Just keep on going. Don't look left, don't look right, don't think. You know, just keep going. Because he's the most talented, and I think he's closer now, as an avid watcher of him, and he's closer to winning a major than he has been for 10 years. 8 years since his last major win, and he's closer now. His game is more complete now. His short game is better now than it's ever been. The work Brad Thatcher has done with him is phenomenal. The work that Bob Bertella has done with him is phenomenal. They were two important additions to his team. Sure. So I'm really hoping it's going to be him. I won't be surprised. I believe, as I say, in destiny, that he is destined to, you know, be our best ever European golfer. He's not there yet, but a win here would probably make him so. But I have picked Cameron Smith, and I picked him for a reason, because he's a dog of a competitor. You know, and again, the more and more I understand the game and see the game, it's great to be able to hit the ball. They all hit the ball so well now, and they all put so well. I said it on TV last night. A wise man said to me years and years ago, I've never forgotten it. Golf is about performing in the allocated time. The allocated time is the first of the 18th, and it's in major championships. And I just feel that that's where competitiveness comes in. And Cameron Smith is a phenomenal competitor.
He's a good putter too.
He's a great putter, which is important.
But he's big.
And he's a great iron player. Iron play is going to be important around here, particularly now, as I say, because they can access the pins. Yeah. A lot of the pins are stuck over knobs and hills today, but I'm just looking at, for about 10 minutes before I came up this morning, looking at very early morning play. The second hole, just give you an example. The second hole, I know these golf courses have played here hundreds, maybe not hundreds, but certainly nearly 100 times. The second hole, the pin position today, is right behind two massive hills. And the pin position is in here. Yesterday you couldn't have got at this pin because you can't roll it up here because it will peel off left or right. There's no way out. The only way in is this way. And yesterday, if you went in here with a rock hard green ping, it would have gone to 45 feet. Now I'm seeing the guys going in with something like an 8 iron. It's going 1 bounce, 2 bounce, and then backspin in 5 or 6 feet. They got a 15 for birdie. That couldn't happen. So that's just a little marginal gain they're going to have the whole way around, and that's what's going to push the scoring. Yesterday the cut was level par. I think the scoring will be 2 shots better today, with the rain. There's not much wind, and there's not much wind forecast for the rest of the week. So that's why I'm saying 20 under. Yeah. I think we could have a record-winning score here.
Wow.
It's a shame because that's St Andrews' defence is the knobs, isn't it? And it's the hard ground.
Absolutely.
And as soon as it gets wet, it just
when they go over it. They go over the knobs and they can spin it back towards it. You're going to see that. I mean, yesterday some of those pins yesterday were impossible. The pin on 13 was impossible because it was rock hard. But if it's soft, those guys create so much spin and so much height, and particularly when there's no wind and the ball's not being buffeted around. And they just play so aggressive that they'll go in there and spin it. And once they get it to 15, 20 feet, they're deadly. Their putting is great. And the greens are slow, so you can put quite aggressively. So it's all adding up for a record scoring here, in my opinion. I said it last night. When we were on air last night, so I do this 2-hour show, post-game shows, they call it in America, called Live From. And when we were on last night, we went to one of the breaks, checked my emails, and I'm on the email list of the players, so the pin positions have come through. And the minute I saw it, I then checked the weather forecast, because you know how much the weather forecast changes hourly, so you really want to, you watch it, and the weather forecast had moved from no rain to some rain, and I thought, no. So I got rain combined with pin positions that are going to be a lot more accessible. I called it last night, we'll see. I've called it, we're going to have some really low scoring today.
Well, thank you so much for coming. We've got a few caps here.
Sure.
If you ask him nicely, I'm sure he'll
I'm
sign
happy
for
to
you
do
guys.
it. Of course, no problem. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the day. I think the afternoon, the worst part of the day was in here. You're done now with me. You're done with the rain. Now you can go and have fun out there. It's going to be good to watch. I'm just hoping, fingers crossed, it's not going to be Tigers massive trip across that.
Are they going to be New Zealand for it?
I was just going to say, Fairmont, St Andrews tonight. See you guys later. Lee Westwood and John Daly talk about more live golf.